Good afternoon. So great to see all of you. I just have to, this is not part of my prepared remarks, but I just have to say my introduction to Treehouse was that I did an internship in 1990 while I was in college working on holiday magic. So I just want to give a shout out to my friends at Cairo before I get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Today is one of our very favorite days of the year because it is the day we get to see and feel and truly experience this incredible community of champions, the community that built Treehouse and continues to support and sustain us. Today, we are surrounded by community partners, elected officials, staff, donors, volunteers. Today and every day, we are lifted by your commitment, your generosity, and your heart. So thank you for being here with us. And please join me in saying a hello to all the hundreds of people that we have joining us online today. Hi, Mom. Maybe you'll see a shout out from her in the chat. So today we are here to amplify the stories and needs of young people impacted by foster care, to hear about how foster care has profoundly affected their lives and how they are taking their lives back. This morning, nearly 6,000 children and youth across our state woke up in unfamiliar surroundings. When CPS showed up, likely at school, a place that should be safe and certain, most never saw that school again. They left behind favorite clothing and treasured belongings. They're worrying about what's going to happen to them and whether or not they're going to see their mom or their siblings this week. This might be their first or their third or their 10th foster care placement. Now imagine what it is like for these young people to go to school in the midst of this kind of trauma, transition, and loss. Often when kids come into foster care, they're forced to change schools. Not only are they without their families and everything they know, they're now also without trusted friends, teachers, counselors, and coaches. They are the new kid again. It takes time to get their school records. They get placed in the wrong classes or go weeks or months without special education interventions. They likely transferred in the middle of a term and are not allowed to join the football team or the jazz choir because they missed tryouts. They miss critical content when they get pulled out of algebra to go to therapy every week, or when they go for court dates that may decide their fate. And when their trauma and loss bubbles over into challenging behavior in the classroom and the school fails to recognize why, they get suspended or expelled. All of this communicates to our young people that school is not a place for them. And that's where Treehouse steps in. Clothing, shoes, and school supplies to help them feel good and fit in. Funding for extracurricular and school activities so they can fully participate. A Treehouse educational advocate to partner with their caregiver and caseworker to get those records transferred, to advocate for needed educational testing or negotiate down a suspension that will keep them in the classroom. A Treehouse education specialist to provide educational coaching and mentoring, to be that stable, consistent adult whose sole focus is to help them achieve their own goals, stay on track to graduation, and create their plan for the future. As you heard earlier, this integrated, holistic approach works. These direct interventions, anchored by human connection, are essential to changing the educational outcomes of our young people in foster care. But they are insufficient to affect the kind of change we envision and know is possible. So let me explain. Despite years of providing effective services that address significant gaps in both the foster care and education systems, we had countless examples of barriers created by these very systems. Placement changes, school changes, special education and discipline practices, and caseworker turnover. Agencies that did not coordinate programs, share data, or partner effectively. In many cases, there were no laws to protect the educational rights of our kids in foster care. These systemic challenges reduce the power of, and in many cases were a significant barrier to, our ability to achieve our mission. At Treehouse, we realized that we could work smart, long, and hard, and our youth still might not be able to succeed in school due to factors outside of their control or our control. And it became clear that we needed to develop and implement a proactive strategy to influence laws, funding, and practice. Today, thanks to our leadership, advocacy, and the collaboration with many partners over many, many years, and many of them are here in this room today, Washington State has some of the strongest laws in the country addressing the educational needs of youth in foster care. And we have a long way to go to implement them effectively. I view our role at Treehouse as creating the conditions for children and youth in foster care to succeed in school and in life on their terms. We listen to the voices of those most impacted and convene the players that can make meaningful change. We leverage what we learn from our work with young people to inform our legislative agenda and advocate to transform our systems. Sometimes that means partnering with government and schools from the inside, and other times it means advocating and challenging these systems from the outside. Last year, on this very stage, I stood before you, announced that Treehouse would open all of its programs to serve every school-age young person in foster care in Washington State, regardless of their zip code. Our reason was simple. Our youth should not be denied access to these critical supports just because they live in or are moved to another part of our state. Over this past year, we've been focused on growing into that footprint. We now have over 200 staff serving youth in every corner of our state. And I want to tell you that we are really stretching to keep up with the demand for our services. Requests for financial support for basic needs, extracurricular, and school activities are up 35%. Online requests for clothing and school supplies are up 63%. And requests for our driver's education and car insurance are up over 100%. As we expand our youth-centered education, coaching, and mentoring to new communities, requests to resolve tough school-related barriers through our educational advocacy program only grow. And we are advising nearly 100 new young people as they navigate young adulthood. More young people across our state need our services, and we need your support in order to fulfill their needs. 60% of our budget comes from our communities, from people like you. As we live into this expansion, we continue to center 3 critical commitments. If you were here with us last year, these may sound familiar to you. Number 1, we must effectively serve every young person. In order to achieve our goal, we must meet the individualized needs of every youth. We must re-engage the young people who are not enrolled in school. We must provide targeted, culturally relevant services to all of our youth, including our tribal youth, our incarcerated youth, our LGBTQIA youth, and our unaccompanied refugee youth who are in this country without a parent. Standing firmly in our commitment to racial equity, we must eliminate the disparities in outcomes for our BIPOC youth. And we are especially proud of our work in deep partnership with 6 sovereign tribal nations. Number 2, we must change the systems. Until students in foster care do not change placements in schools up to 12 times, until current law is fully and effectively implemented, until our students are not suspended and expelled at 4 times the rate of their peers, and until youth who've experienced foster care do not make up 40% of the incarcerated youth in our state, we have critical work to do. And number 3, we must lead the nation. We've learned a lot on our journey, and we believe that we have an obligation to share our expertise to improve education outcomes of students experiencing foster care across our country. We are proud that our work has in part inspired a group of national funders to invest in improving educational outcomes for highly mobile students at the federal level, and that Treehouse has become a key partner to the U.S. Department of Education. We dream of having transformational impact beyond Washington State, of Treehouse becoming the nation's leading expert on the education of children, youth, and young adults experiencing foster care. Over these next 10 years, we will build a path to do just that. In my role, I have the opportunity to meet with organizations across the nation about the challenges our youth face and what more needs to be done. My colleagues in other states often tell me that they wish they had a Treehouse. I can truly tell you that Treehouse is singular, the only organization providing this array of education and other essential supports with this level of effectiveness at this scale anywhere in our country. But we are singular today, we are singular because of you, because of this community gathered here today. We rely on the partnership of so many to be part of that village that our young people need. And at Treehouse, our mission is to create opportunities for young people in foster care to thrive. Our vision is that every young person impacted by foster care has everything they need to determine their own future and build the life of their dreams. I hope you will join us today in bringing that vision to life. Thank you for stepping up as champions for our young people in foster care. They are counting on us to be their community so that they can thrive. Thank you.